Okay, let's discuss angles today. Today, we're going to learn the various types of angles, and also learn how to identify these angles. So the first one there is acute angles. Before we proceed, I would like to tell you that all these angles are explained and defined relative to three special angles. I like to call them special angles. The first is 90 degrees. Second is 180 degrees, and then 360 degrees, and you find out shortly why I'm making this statement. Okay, for acute angles are angles that are less than 90 degrees. So any angle that is less than 90 degrees is an acute angle. You have 45, 79, even 89.89 or 89.9 self. So any angle that is less than 90 degrees is an acute angle. How to identify this angle? I like to use the concept of a clock. So we're going to put our clock there. We're just going to identify some major points. That's 12, 3, 6, and 9. I think we're good to go. So acute angle is when let's say now we're starting from where both the minute hand and the hour hand are on 12 o'clock. So this is just 12 o'clock exactly, because at 12 o'clock we've not turned any angle, because we're measuring how much the hour hand has turned from 12. So at 12 o'clock we are 0 degrees, right? We've not turned. So an acute angle is when the hour hand has moved from 12 to any point on the clock, but in between 12 and 3, not up to 3. That's the thing. So this angle here will be acute. All right, it can be at this point also, but just make sure it's not up to 3. All right, if it's up to 3, it's no longer acute. So any angle that is formed from 12, between 12 and 3 would be an acute angle, and is always less than 90 degrees. So take note of that. So that means this angle here would be what? Acute. Now the next one we have there is right angle. A right angle is an angle that is exactly equal to 90 degrees. So a right angle is exactly equal to 90 degrees, and to illustrate that is when the hour hand is exactly at 3 o'clock. So exactly at 3. So that would be a right angle. Remember, it's exactly equal to 90 degrees. So from 12 o'clock rather, we're now at 3. So another thing you need to realize is that an acute angle, a right angle is always illustrated with something like an L and then a box instead of an arc. We normally represent angles with arc like this, but a right angle is represented with a box. So anytime you see something like that, it means that's a right angle. So please take note of that. So the next one we have is obtuse angles. Alright, what is an obtuse angle? Obtuse angles are angles that are greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. So they are greater than 90 but they are less than 180. So you have example 100 degrees, 120 degrees, 170 degrees. So any angle that is greater than 90 but less than 180 is an obtuse angle. So the representation in our clock would be an angle when the hour hand has moved from that point 3 now to any point between 3 and 6. It must not be up to 6, just between 3 and 6. Let's say I missed my center there. Okay, let's say 5 or 4 o'clock, whatever. So that angle formed relative from the starting point from 12, that angle there would be an obtuse angle. So it must be greater than 90 degrees but less than 360. So from that point we started, this is an obtuse angle. Now the next one will be what? A straight angle. Sometimes you call it angles on a straight line. So angle on a straight line is exactly equal to 180 degrees. Alright, representing it, that would be when the hour hand is exactly at 6 o'clock. So we are exactly at 6 now. So that would be angle on a straight line. As you can see, the angles, every angle from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, see they are just on a straight line. So when we add all these angles up onto 6 o'clock, they will all sum up to 180 degrees. That's what I mean by angles on the straight line sum up to 180 degrees. The next one is reflex angles. Now reflex angles are angles that are greater than 180 degrees. So they are greater than 180 but less than 360 degrees. So a reflex angle would be greater than 180 but less than 360. So any angle at any point, we can draw this one from any point now. So any point between from this 6 to, but it must not be up to 12, because when we go back to 12 we've gone complete in a circle. So let's say something like this would work. So that angle there would be a reflex angle. So from where we started, turning to this point, that would be reflex, right? Because it's greater than 180 but less than 360 degrees. So that would be what a reflex angle would look like. Now the last one is angles at a point. Angles at a point. So if we completed this angle, let's say we put another angle there, this final angle, let's say we close the final angle. Now angles at a point are angles that sum up to 360 degrees. So if we add all the angles in the clock, what we mean is that this hour hand has been turning from 12, now it has gone back to 12. So the hour hand and the minute hand is going to coincide at 12. That's a complete circle. So you see that's going to give us 360 degrees. So that's why we call it a complete turn. So that is it. Remember how to identify acute angles, right angles, obtuse angles, straight angles, reflex angles, and then angles at a point. And then know the definition. So you see that all these angles were defined relative to 90, 180, and 360. So that's just it for angles.